Hexagram number 4. Youthful folly. A new lesson. You are learning something you never knew before. It is not I who seek the young fool. The young fool seeks me. This hexagram explains the relationship between the sage who speaks through the I Ching and the follower who consults it. The sage will speak through the oracle and come to our aid only if we have a correct attitude. That is, we have willingly suspended our disbelief and distrust of the unknown. If we are skeptical, indifferent, cynical, hostile, or cross-examining, the answers will be unintelligible. As the sage remains in retirement, to the extent we hedge in suspending our disbelief, we block the sage's help, for it is against his principles to respond to anything less than the humility of an open mind. Because he is firmly committed to what is good, he will not throw himself away. Forgive me. Because he is firmly committed to what is good, he will not throw himself away by seeking our approval. Nor will he attempt, by persuasion, to overcome our predetermined views of how the cosmos works, of what is good and bad, or of the nature of God or fate, however erroneous those views might be. In approaching the sage, we should take care to rid ourselves of predetermined ideas that prevent learning. We may be afraid that his reply might upset our defenses, or that we will be unable to face the truth about some situation. In the folly of spiritual youth, we fail to realize that learning the truth always lightens our load by lifting away the oppressive burdens of fear and doubt. To study with the sage of the I Ching is to be permitted to use. To study with the sage of the I Ching is to be permitted to see life from the cosmic viewpoint. At the conclusion of each lesson, we gain a cosmic insight. Whether we consult the I Ching daily or occasionally, its answers concern the next step in our understanding. Each new lesson entails a new beginning with its characteristic difficulties. The problem put before us for solving during each lesson generally provides the circumstance by which the lesson may be worked out. The lesson is concluded when we understand the problem from the cosmic viewpoint. On gaining this insight, the problem either is resolved or else progresses one more step towards its ultimate solution. If we consult the I Ching daily, then each lesson may be concluded in as short a time as a week. If we consult it once a year, each lesson may require a much longer time to master. Such lessons, of course, do not take place only through the I Ching. The sage is life's invisible teacher, and our daily life's experiences are our classroom. Such lessons may be learned without consulting the I Ching. However, the I Ching provides a lantern by which we may safely cross the plane of pitfalls that exists in the domain of spiritual progress. Without its help, the learning process may require we fall into them time and again. Receiving youthful folly as a second hexagram is to say you are not expected to know cosmic lessons in advance. The matter at hand is simply youthful ignorance. Folly therefore means lack of spiritual knowledge, and you are learning something new. Sometimes the hexagram calls us to put things in perspective. To err is natural. If we have erred, then our error was a deep place, blocking the path. Recognizing the error fills in the deep place. With the danger past, we forget our errors and go on with our learning. Another meaning of youthful folly has to do with others. Folly. Just as it is necessary to have an open mind to bring the sage out of retirement, it is necessary to approach others with an open mind, to bring out our hidden great man within them. If they remain unreceptive or unresponsive, then we adopt the sage's point of view. We let them go. We do not contend with them or try to convince them. We let them go, even to danger and difficulty. For it is only when they are exposed to the hazards and consequences of their folly, that they will learn the cosmic lessons. We also allow them to return, for letting them go does not mean we give up as hopeless. Forgive me, we also allow them to return, for letting them go does not mean we give them up as hopeless, which in I Ching terms is to execute them. In letting go, we do not indulge in anger. Instead, we disperse our emotional reactions and cut our inner strings to become neutral in attitude. Disengagement means we no longer watch with our inner eye what others do or fail to do. Disengagement is a form of trust that empowers their superior nature. Giving people space is a form of universal love that enables them to come back in time to their true selves. This is how the sage teaches us, and is the way we are meant to teach others. Sometimes this hexagram reminds us of the tendency on facing dangerous obstacles to think there is no way to overcome them. The hexagram says that the correct way out of difficulties is found through perseverance. We hold to what we already know to be correct and remain receptive to the higher power so that further insight may be received. The sage does not give us comprehensive answers, but keeps unfolding before us each single step to be taken. It is only our ego that wants comprehensive answers and instantaneous results because of its fears and for its selfish purposes. Changing line number 1. The fetters should be removed. To gain on this way brings humiliation. It is one thing to learn about life by being told, but finally we must apply our learning. This often happens by direct and sometimes unpleasant experiences. But what we learn makes us stronger, and the lesson becomes committed not just to intellect, but to the heart as inner truth. Changing line number 2. To bear with fools in kindliness brings good fortune. The son is capable of taking charge of the household. This image refers to the sons taking the father's place. Only when he has learned to govern from inner truth, knowing the difficulty of correcting his own weaknesses, he is capable of viewing others' mistakes and weaknesses, especially those who have developed themselves with chivalry. It is important to be modest and kind, not proud and vindictive. Until we have achieved such modesty and kindness in the face of challenges, we are not capable of drawing others to the correct path by our example. Bearing with fools is kindliness. Forgive me, bearing with fools in kindliness can also mean bearing with things our inferiors hate. Thus, bear with streaks of bad luck. It may be forgive me, I must read that again here. Bearing with fools in kindliness can also mean bearing with things our inferiors hate. Bear with streaks of bad luck, bad situations, and whatever comes, however inappropriate it may be. It is true modesty not to be deterred by bad chance. As in playing tennis, we should immediately forget the bad shots, the mistakes, and concentrate on readiness for the next shots through keeping disengaged from inner dialogues. Even labeling the shots as bad or good has negative effect, upsetting our equilibrium in the elevated cosmic view. Everything good and bad is really as it needs to be for our self-development. Changing line number 3. Take not a maiden who loses possession of herself. Nothing furthers. This line refers to a servile approach to learning. If we tell people what ought to be done, then they will follow the form rather than the content of things. They will concentrate their attention on conforming to appearances rather than on what is correct and essential. We must let people go into error until they have exhausted the enthusiasm that led them astray. only when they really need help will they seek instruction in a childlike and unassuming manner. This is also true of the way we learn. The sage would not have us being servilely good, but learn the joy of following what is good for its own sake. Similarly, we should not want people to learn servilely. Or require more of them than what is correct, because of our pride or because of our desire to be vindicated. Changing line number 4. Entangled folly brings humiliation. This line often refers to the egotistical assumption that we can guide our way through life purely by the power of intellect. This arrogant self-confidence isolates us from the help we need from the inner world and guarantees that we'll not be open-minded enough to understand such help word offered. The sage lets us go our way until we acquire the humility needed to end the vicious circle of no progress. Changing line number 5. Childlike folly brings good fortune. When we acquire a childlike openness of mind, we will certainly be helped to understand the secrets of the inner world through which the sage alone can guide us. In teaching others, we need only cling to the power of truth to show itself, instead of striving to make ourselves understood. We should innocently follow the truth of things without worrying what others will think. Changing line number 6. In punishing folly, it does not further one to commit transgressions. The only thing that furthers is to prevent transgressions. Fate punishes us when we disregard cosmic laws, yet it does not, Fate punishes us when we disregard cosmic laws, yet it does so dispassionately and only as necessity requires, and to the degree required to break down obstinacy in our attitude. This line also implies that anyone who obstinately follows a dead-end road meets with disappointment. Only that which is founded on correct principles can ultimately succeed. Unpleasant events serve to jar our minds, telling us we are on the wrong path. We should keep these principles in mind when we deal with obstinate indifference in others. We involuntarily and automatically punish others when we recognize their faults and transgressions. This involuntary punishment registers in their psyches. When we dwell on them as problems, we punish them excessively. When we dwell on them as problems, we punish them excessively. We cease punishing when we come to a just and moderate view of their transgressions. Punishment does not mean execution, by which we give up on people and cast them off as impossible. Nor does it mean that we commit them to more than a temporary imprisonment in our mind. The image in the Wanderer, Hexagram 56, says, the superior man is clear-minded and cautious in imposing penalties and protracts no lawsuits, and penalties and lawsuits should be quickly passing matters and must not be dragged out indefinitely. Correct punishment is to seek the help of the sage, to whom we then turn over the entire matter. It is entangled folly to think it is entirely our responsibility to right matters by punishing. We must acquire help by retreating and disengaging, and by leaving the work of correction to the sage. Otherwise, we ourselves transgress. Note, this line, as well as the fourth line, may refer to transgressioning. Note, this line, as well as the fourth line, may refer to transgressing by becoming lax in our tolerance of evil. We give an inch, so the spoiled one takes a mile. To a certain extent, therefore, the transgression when we punish, we ought to remember that part of the fault is ours. This ends hexagram number 4.